So one of the most important functions of an assembly in Inventor is creating a set of relationships in between parts so that they know how they should interact. To do this, what you would commonly use constraint tool, it's this little button over here. If you hover over it, it has a description and you can see that it says it creates constraints which control the position and behavior of assembly components. So I'm going to demonstrate this now. So for the constraint tool, there's a lot of different functions that you can do. You can use assembly, motion, translational, constraint set, and within each division, there's more subdivisions and types. And within each type, there's different types of solutions. In most cases, for me, because I do it mostly recreationally and for robotics, like 99% of the time, I just use the assembly subdivision and I use type mate. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to show you guys today. Usually you can do most of the stuff that you want to do with just the mate function. So there are three main ways you can constrain parts in Inventor. You can do face-to-face, line to line, point to line, so on. You can do mate, flush, or you can constrain axes. So for the mate, what it does is it makes two faces touch each other and be on the same plane. So I'm going to demonstrate this. So I select these two faces, and I go ahead and click OK. What you'll see now is if you look from the right, you'll see that these two faces always touch each other. You might notice that, oh, it's here, it's not touching each other anymore, but that's not true because they're still on the same plane. So it makes sure that the planes of the two faces that you select are always aligned and always touching. If you want to delete a constraint, just click the plus button over here, right click the relationship and click delete. And then you can see now that there's no relationship. So another constraint you can do is the flush constraint. The flush constraint makes two faces, instead of touch each other, align with each other. So what I mean by that is if I click this face and I click this face, you'll notice that they're now on the same plane. Again, if you look from on the right, you can see that they are in the same plane and that these two planes, they will always be facing the same direction. So that's how the flush constraint works. Again, if you want to delete, just click the plus button on the side, right click, and then delete. So finally, you can use this mate constraint and you can constrain axes together, like if you want to do a wheel and axle. That's like a very common application. So to constrain axes, you have to hover over something like a circle and make sure that you see this little like dotted line. Once you see that dotted line, then that means that you're constraining the axis. So you click that, and then you click this. See, there's two axes, and then you have made a constraint, an axis constraint. So what that means is they're now always on the same axis. And if you look from the front, you'll see that, okay, maybe that's not. If you look from this view, then you'll see that they're always on the same line, and you can't move one to the left without moving the other to the left, right, up, down, without. So that's the axis constraint. Obviously, if Inventor could only do that without any customization, Inventor wouldn't really be that powerful. So a really important thing you can notice is that there's this offset box, which means you can offset two parts from each other. Example, if I click this and I click this and I want these two faces to touch, I can also choose to do an offset. I can make 1 inch in between all of them. So now you'll see that there's exactly 1 inch in between both of these. And if I click OK, it does the same thing. So it makes sure that the planes have exactly 1 inch in between them. Obviously, the same concept applies to the other ones. For the flush constraint, if you choose two surfaces, you can also customize it so there's an offset in between. And if you want the offset to be in the opposite direction, you can just add a negative sign. And same thing applies. If you want to do a axis constraint, then you just select two axes. You can choose this axis, and you can choose this axis, and you can have offsets there. You can have an offset of 2 inches between the two axes, and you can also toggle the direction. You can change the offset to as much as you want, like you can make it 10. Now you can see that these two parts are pretty far away from each other. So you can customize. Another really cool thing that you can do with constraint is you can undo multiple constraints. So basically what I mean by that is if I want these two things to align and touch each other, what I can do is use a combination of constraints. So I will click this, and I will click this, and now the axes are aligned. That's good, right? I'm going to drag them a bit farther away from each other. And then now I'm going to make this face and this face touch each other. Perfect. And now you can see if I ground this piece, this can't move anymore. It can still rotate, which is good. That's what we want, but it can't move like left, right, up, or down. So out of the 6 degrees of like freedom, there's basically only one left. You can only do this one axis of rotation. So that's an introduction to constraints. If you want to be able to keep track, you can also you can rename them by clicking here. I can call this constraint 1. You can do whatever you want. So, introduction to constraints.